Hey everyone, and welcome. In a world that feels like it's constantly shifting under our feet, where do we actually find true, lasting security? Well, today we're diving into the incredible promises in Psalm 125, a chapter that gives us a picture of an unshakable fortress for our faith. And this explainer is brought to you by the You Need Faith in Jesus team.
That's really the big question, isn't it? Everything around us, it feels like it can change in a heartbeat. And the people this psalm was written for, they completely understood that feeling. See, this is one of the songs of ascents, which were songs that ancient pilgrims would sing as they made the journey uphill on their way to Jerusalem. So they were literally moving toward a place of safety, and this song was like their spiritual fuel for the trip. So, the psalm kicks things off by building this powerful, solid foundation for our faith, and it uses an image that those pilgrims would have seen getting bigger and bigger on the horizon: Mount Zion. Just listen to that promise. For those ancient travelers, Mount Zion wasn't just some big hill. It was the ultimate symbol of permanence, of strength. It was the place where God's temple stood. And the psalmist says that when you put your trust in the Lord, you become like that mountain, unshakable, permanent, and forever secure. Now, here's the most important part. This stability, this unshakableness, it doesn't come from us, from our own strength or how tightly we can hang on. No, it comes from the one we're trusting in, the unchanging, eternal God who made a promise, a covenant with his people. Our security is completely rooted in his faithfulness, not ours. And this is where the whole story of the Bible just comes together so beautifully. Hundreds of years later, the prophet Isaiah uses this exact same imagery of Zion to point to the ultimate foundation. And this precious cornerstone, of course, is the Lord Jesus Christ himself. And that promise is for you and me, right here, right now. In a world where your job, your health, your relationships can all feel so uncertain, this is our anchor. Your standing with God through faith in Jesus isn't temporary. It's not based on your performance. It is as eternally secure as that mountain. Just let that sink in for a minute. Okay, so let's jump to the next verse because the picture gets even bigger. The imagery just beautifully expands from one solid mountain to this all-encompassing protection of an entire mountain range. Now, what's so cool about this is the actual geography behind it. Jerusalem is literally situated in a valley, surrounded on all sides by hills and mountains. They form this incredible natural defensive wall. So the person writing this psalm looked at that landscape and saw a perfect living illustration of God's protection. So you see, God doesn't just stand in front of us like a shield. The verse says he is round about us. He encircles us completely. This isn't some far-off idea. It's immediate, it's total, and it's forever. He's got all sides covered: your past, your present, and whatever is coming in your future. I absolutely love this other verse from Zechariah because it takes that image of a fortress and just dials it up to a whole new level. God's presence isn't passive and cold like stone mountains. Nope, it's active, it's powerful, it is a wall of fire that no enemy could ever hope to get through. Wow, what an incredible picture. But let's be real for a second. What about when life gets hard? What happens when it really feels like the wicked are winning? Well, the psalm doesn't ignore that. It tackles this reality head-on and explains how God's protection works even when we're right in the middle of a trial. Okay, let's break this down. The rod of the wicked, that just means the rule, the oppressive power of evil people or evil systems. And the lot of the righteous, that's their inheritance, their portion, their very life. So God's promise here is that evil will not get to set up camp permanently in the lives of his people. And the reason God gives for this promise, well, it tells you so much about his heart. He puts a limit on these trials because he knows our limits. He knows that under constant, relentless pressure, even the strongest among us can be tempted to give up or to sin. So he protects us not just from the trial, but from the sin that an overwhelming trial could push us toward. And isn't it amazing how the Apostle Paul says this exact same thing centuries later? This is such a deep comfort. God is faithful. He's the one in control of how much pressure we're under. He will never, ever let you face more than you can handle with his strength, and he always provides a way through it. So now the psalm kind of shifts gears. After declaring all these amazing truths about God's protection, the psalmist turns to prayer, gives a pretty serious warning, and then closes with this beautiful blessing. This is just the natural response of a heart that really trusts God. It's a simple prayer, asking God to bless those who are genuinely trying to follow him. It's not about being perfect, not at all, but about having a heart that's pointed in the right direction, towards God. And then you get to verse 5, which lays out two very different destinies, as you can see right here. On one side, there's a serious warning for those who turn aside to crooked ways. But on the other side, for God's people who keep going, who persevere in faith, the promise is just so clear and so wonderful. And look at that final word for the righteous, peace. The Hebrew word is shalom, and that is so much bigger than just the absence of fighting. Shalom is this deep, all-encompassing sense of wholeness, security, well-being, basically a completeness that you can only find in God. That's the ultimate destination for his people. So this is all great, but how do we take these ancient, powerful truths and actually live them out today? Well, in this last part, let's get practical and look at 4 steps to walking in the security this psalm talks about. All right, here we go. Number 1, acknowledge. Make a conscious choice to acknowledge that your real foundation isn't your 401k or your own smarts, but Christ, your Mount Zion, who cannot be moved. Second, pray. Picture those mountains around Jerusalem and actively ask God for that same wall of fire protection in your own life. Third, trust. When a trial comes, and it will, trust that the rod of the wicked has an expiration date. God is still in control. And finally, number 4, persevere. Keep putting one foot in front of the other on the straight path, because you know your destination isn't chaos, but his amazing shalom peace. So that's the real challenge, isn't it? That's what this psalm leaves us with. How does knowing you are fundamentally unshakable and completely surrounded by God's power, how does that change the way you face your fears, your job, and your family this week? We really hope the timeless truths of Psalm 125 are a huge source of strength and encouragement for you. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer from the You Need Faith in Jesus team.